Now, everybody knows that time is our most valuable resource because you can't make more time. You can make more money, you can make more friends. But in this video, we're gonna talk about how to master a new skill because skills save you time. I've made other videos about how to save some time, automating tasks, outsourcing, streamlining, but this is the first I've made on mastering a new skill. So let's get into it. Hi, my name's Tyus. I make videos about personal freedom, liberty, how to escape the rat race. If you want to live your freest life, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you get the next video as it comes out, which happens every Monday and Friday. In this video, we're going to be talking about mastering a new skill, identifying those opportunities, designing the best skill building psychology, first principle thinking, slingshotting skill building, reaching mastery, and something called skill stacking. Now you want to stay to the end so that you have the whole formula. There's this wild thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is the concept that people with low ability actually overestimate how good they are at doing something. So for example, 93% of United States drivers consider themselves to be above average. Only 50% should be above average, so most people are overestimating how good they are at driving. 42% of employees consider themselves to be in the top 5% of employees. What it's taught us is that you actually need to master a skill in order to be able to measure how good you are at doing that skill. And when you haven't mastered the skill yet, you kind of assume that you're good at it without even trying. You don't know how hard it is yet. So how do we fix this? How do we overcome it? Why should we even care? Well, the way you overcome it is that you assume you don't know. You assume you don't have knowledge if you aren't sure. You assume that you're bad at something. You assume that you are below average. I know that sounds really dark, but it's actually a really good thing to do because when you make that assumption, it also sets you up to accept new knowledge. It sets you up in a position where you're ready to take new information in. You're ready to receive. Once you're in a frame of mind where you can accept knowledge, will you? Now, children learn faster than adults, and we know that, but why do they learn faster than adults? There's several reasons. One is that they've got a lot more free time than adults. We can't really change that. Their brains are more flexible than adults. That is neuroplasticity, and we can't really change that, but there are things we can change. For example, children have a lot less ego, a lot less pride than adults, and that's something that we can teach ourselves to do. They also will try. They're not afraid. They've got nothing to lose or a lot less to lose than adults, and those are behaviors. Those are psychological traits that we can learn. I used to work for Apple, and I would routinely see children coming in and playing with new technology, not being afraid of pressing the button just to see what happens on that piece of tech, while adults, on the other hand, they would act with great caution. They would ask, what does this do, before ever pressing the button. Ultimately, the adults try and reach a goal and they walk with caution because they're afraid that if they hit the wrong thing, they're going to fail, while kids are trying to experiment. They're not afraid of failure. Their goal is to learn, and that makes them learn much faster than adults ever will. Ultimately, children fail faster and they learn skills faster because of it. And that's a trait we can adopt as adults. We can fail faster, not being afraid to hit the button, to learn the new skill, to try the new thing, knowing that failure is an option, but in the path of failing or succeeding, we're going to master new skills. Ralph Lauren, David Murdoch, and Howard Schultz all became billionaires starting with zero money. Now, if you contrast that with Ike Batista, who used to be the 8th richest person on the planet and definitely the richest person in Brazil, he lost $35.5 billion in about 2 years, which is the equivalent of $50 million a day. That's an incredible amount of money. That's a fortune to lose. But what's the difference between somebody that loses a fortune versus these people that make a fortune with nothing? Well, it's obviously they took different actions, and the actions they took come from the thoughts they think, their psychology, what they chose to do. So not all thinking is equal, but there is good news. We know what the best way of thinking is, and it's called first principles. So what is first principle thinking? It's simplifying a problem down to its very smallest form, and then you optimize it from there. It's the dominant strategy used by top scientists and philosophers forever. I mean, people from Aristotle all the way up to Elon Musk use this strategy. So let me give you an example so that it kind of makes sense. Let's say we wanted to write a book. Somebody who is not using this process might just sit down and start writing and hope it goes really well. And it might go well, but it also might go terribly wrong. Somebody who thinks with first principles, on the other hand, will consider what is a book made of. They want to break down the problem into its smaller components. So a book is composed of chapters. Those chapters are composed of paragraphs. The paragraphs are made of sentences, and those sentences are made of words. So the person that thinks with first principles in mind might consider what words are going to be the best to use, in what order, what's going to impact my audience the best. And when you're learning a new skill, it's always best to learn with first principles first. The process of using first principles in learning can be broken down into 3 basic steps. The first step is to identify what your current assumptions are about whatever the topic might be. Then you want to break down the problem or the information into its fundamental pieces. And third is you want to solve that problem from scratch. You take those pieces and you can rearrange them, you can change them, you can think about swapping them out. Let's use Elon Musk with cars, for example. He was really focusing on how we move people around before joining Tesla. So he looked at cars and looked at the assumptions already made about them. Oh, they use 4 wheels, they're powered by gas, they're built by people. He investigated those assumptions, and then he came to his own conclusions. Hey, we should stick with the 4-wheel thing, but they don't have to run on gas. They can run on electricity. They don't have to be built by people. They can be built by robots. He changed the way we make automotive vehicles, and he's really changing the landscape of transportation because he used first principles, which changed the way he's manufacturing cars. First principles really help us get a better understanding of what we're trying to do. It helps us innovate, and it helps us explain things to others better. Now, explaining things to other people, also known as teaching, is also a really good behavior to do if you're trying to gain that new skill. As you grow that skill, you should definitely start teaching it to other people because it helps filter out unuseful information, it forces you to get a clearer understanding, and it cements in your knowledge. Now, unlike first principle thinking, it's really best to teach with analogy, which is very different than first principle thinking. Analogy helps connect things we know with things we're trying to learn. The unknown becomes the known by analogy. But analogy is a bad way of solving problems because not all problems are perfectly similar. So one bad relationship doesn't mean that every relationship is going to be bad. Teaching others helps solve their problems, but it also helps you become an expert in that particular skill that you're trying to master. Becoming an expert in the skill set that you're working on developing is an essential part of the process of gaining that skill. When people see you as an expert, they will come to you with their problems regarding that topic. And that's a really good thing because it puts you in a situation with one of 2 possible outcomes. The first thing is you might know the solution to their problem, in which case you get to teach them the answer, and we just discussed that teaching is a great way of solidifying that skill for you. The other thing that might happen is you might not know the answer to their problem, but that's good too, because then you'll get to go out there and learn and discover and research and find out what the solution to that problem is. You'll become the first person to know, which will make you even more of an expert. It'll grow your knowledge and expand your skills. Now, skills are not standalone, they are accumulative. Some skills are foundational for other skills to be built upon. So for us to learn how to run, we need to walk first. For us to learn how to walk, we crawl first. One skill stacks on top of another. If we want to learn how to read, we often need to know how to talk first. If we want to talk, we need to learn how to listen so that we can learn that language. These are skill stacks. Stacking skills. A really, really good skill to have is to learn how to skill stack. And it's similar to building a bridge. It's not functional until it's complete. It takes a long time for it to get complete, but eventually, when you do it, you get safe passage. Your life becomes easier, but there's a frustration in the process because until it's fully complete, it doesn't work. So don't get frustrated in building new skills and stacking them on top of each other. At a certain point, a critical mass is reached, and that bridge is complete. So let's put all of these steps together in one cohesive bundle so that we have an equation, a system that we can use to build new skills. Step 1 being we need to acknowledge that we have knowledge gaps. We have an opportunity to learn. And then step 2 is to accept that challenge. We're going to go after that knowledge. Step 3 is to solve problems regarding that knowledge gap. So find a problem that can be solved, and we're going to use first principle thinking in order to do that. Once we've used that and we know something about that skill, we're going to teach what we've learned, and we're going to teach that using analogy. Teaching is going to make us an expert in the process, which is going to help us because people are going to come to us with problems that we can solve, which will just make our learning process of that skill better and faster, and then we're going to start stacking those skills on top of each other until we've got a complete, robust picture. Then finally, we repeat. I hope you find these videos educational, entertaining, fun. I enjoy making them, so please share them with people that might want to see them. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so, and I hope to see you on the next video.